All right, I want to thank one of my viewers for providing this site to me, and I'm going to put the link in the below. And this is basically going to show you what the climate is going to feel like in our area in the next 60 years. And we're going to take a look at a couple of areas, mainly our area. So let's take a look at New York City. All right, that's our area right now, right? So New York City, a typical summer in Jonesboro, Arkansas is 9.1 Fahrenheit warmer and 20.8% drier than summer in New York. So, in a high emissions scenario in New York, the climate in 2080 will feel most like today's climate in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Yeah, it's going to feel like the South here. That's right, it's going to feel like the South. Now, what if we reduce the emissions? All right, so if we reduce the emissions, it will feel more like Maryland in 60 years. All right? So that's if we reduce the emissions. All right? Unfortunately, this is not what's happening. And that's bad enough. All right? So that's what I'm saying. Even if we reduce the emissions, we're still going to have to find a way to remove carbon from the air or reduce the solar radiation. So let's check another city on the map. Let's see, they're somewhere in New Jersey. Let's see. This looks like Fort Dix. All right, I guess this is closest. So Tom's River is going to feel like Mississippi. It's already becoming like Mississippi. And the typical summer in Clarksdale, Mississippi is 7.6 degrees warmer and 13% drier than summer in Fort Dix. So again, and if we reduce the emissions, Tom's River is going to feel more like Maryland. All right. Though they have Fort Dix, they don't actually have Tom's River on this map. We can pick another city. Let's pick Atlantic City. That's another place that's close to Tom's River. So, if for high emissions, Atlantic City's climate in 28 will feel most like the climate in Elizabeth City. Interesting that it doesn't have it as far south, and that's because of the sea breeze. That's because of the sea breeze. All right, so let's look at a couple of others here. Let's look at Norwich, Connecticut. So if we have high emissions, the typical summer will be similar to Maryland. All right. And if we go and we look at what if we reduce the emissions, or if we reduce emissions, Norwich's Clint will feel more like Somers Point. So the point is, even if we reduce emissions, we're still going to be getting a lot of warming, and this is a big problem. All right, so this is some of the cities that are in our area. Let's now go and take a look at what is going to happen in a place like Montreal or Ottawa. Let's look at Montreal because the warming in Canada is going to be even more significant. All right, so this is even if we reduce emissions, it's going to feel more like the climate of Chicago, all right, which is significantly warmer than Montreal. And if we go at a current high emissions, Montreal is going to feel like Chester, Pennsylvania in 60 years. All right, so this is what's going on, and the warming in Canada is even greater than the warming in a lot of other places. So let's go and look at what its effects are on Chicago. So in a high emissions scenario, Chicago is going to feel more like Lansing, Kansas. All right, in a high emissions scenario. All right, let's take a look at Denver. Let's go out west. Let's see what's going to happen there. So Denver is going to feel more like Borger, Texas, which is 4 degrees hotter. All right, in a high emission scenario. And if we reduce the emissions, it's going to feel more like Dumas, Texas. All right. Do they have Flagstaff on here? I think they do have Flagstaff. So what about Flagstaff? So Flagstaff is going to feel more like West Sedona, Arizona, which is 5.6 degrees warmer and 1.3% drier than summer in Flagstaff. All right, so we go, what about high emissions? It's going to become more like Show Low, Arizona. Oh, yeah, 9.4 degrees hotter and 9.8 degrees wetter. So Flagstaff will get warmer and more humid, according to this, and we actually see a reduction in precipitation, according to this. It seems like we're seeing warmer temperatures and more more humidity. What about let's see what's going on. What about LA? I have Los Angeles on here. There's Los Angeles. So LA in a high emission scenario in 2080 is going to feel like you're in the tropics in Los Palmas, Mexico. Wow. All right. All right. And for those who live in Florida, what about Miami? Miami is going to feel more like Guatemala, so it's going to feel more like you're in the heart of the tropics. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. So this is exact. And if we what if we reduce the emissions? Well, it'll feel more like Cuba. The warming is going to be very dramatic. Let's see if we can actually. I think this just covers North America. I think, or can we go up into places north into Canada here? They have Alaska on here. They do have one place in Alaska. All right. This is where the warming is really dramatic. So what about Fairbanks, Alaska? In a controlled, if we reduce the emissions, the summer will feel like it is in lower Canada. All right. But if we go high emissions, which is what we're doing right now, it's going to feel like you're in Minnesota. All right. So big differences in the climate. All right. And I think this actually is being very conservative, believe it or not. But you could definitely check out this project. I think it's great. I thank my viewer who supported this. And we could also change this to line and climate similarity map. So it'll show basically high similarity, the amount of similarity here that you can choose on the map how that works. But I will provide a link in the bottom. I definitely urge you to check this out again. But for our area here, if we look at New York, you will see that it's going to put us. It's going to feel like the South here in 60 years, and probably and possibly less. Right, but in 60 years, it's going to feel like the Deep South. All right, that's the climate. That's the way the climate's going to be here. We're not going to be able to survive. And Flagstaff will feel like Phoenix. All right, and you know where you have to go to escape the heat? Everybody's gonna have to live in Greenland. All the ice is gonna melt, and this is where everybody's gonna have to live. All right, so this is why we got to do something about climate change. It's an emergency. All right, and we need our government to take a look at this. And well, I'm done with that site. We'll just look at earthnullschool.net. Show you again all the anomalies going on across the world. So here, so actual temperature anomaly. I don't think this does temperature anomaly. We'll look at ocean anomaly. All right, and actually, you could take a look at some of these temperatures in some parts of the world are extremely hot. Some places have set all-time records. I think somewhere in Bangladesh set an all-time record. So their place is setting all-time records of the heat. All right, and again, if we look at the ocean temperatures, you're going to see a lot more red than green on this map. I've red than blue on this map, and you can see, look at that, all that hot water. So warmer oceans, more storms, more clouds. This is what's happening in climate change, and we need to make this a priority because that climate change is the #1 thing that is putting our world at risk right now, more than anything else. And that's not when you put on the TV. They don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about politics because that's what Wall Street, that's what the banks, that's what finance professionals, that's what they want to hear. So that's going to wrap this video up. Thank you for watching.